Hello viewers, I'd just like to make you aware that this video is the result of several days of very hard work that was made with limited tools and also very limited knowledge. So please excuse me for any errors made in this video. It's all learning curve. Enjoy it! Hello and welcome to another video. Today I will be performing a series of tasks in the Jag. Well, they are slightly different between each other, but they are all related to the same component, cooling and steering. Let me just give you a little background of the work that I will need to do. So a few weeks ago I've had the aircon regas in the Jag, and happy days. It was nice and cool when it first came out of the garage, and it was actually on the hottest day of the year until that period. I think it was back in May. Worked fine, and I stopped using the car for about a week. But when I started to use it again, the aircon didn't feel as cool as it should be. Actually, it was basically normal air coming out. I found that very strange, and I started to wonder about the problems that it was causing for the air not to be cool anymore. After doing some investigations and a few other inquiries, I was told that it could be a blockage, but many people said that the condenser was most likely the culprit on a car of this age. The condenser, basically, it is like some sort of a radiator for aircons. Basically, it cools the refrigerant liquid inside the condenser that helps basically with the aircon system. To be honest, don't quote me on it. I got this off my head, so it is probably works a bit different. But it acts as a cooling, so that's why it is in front of the normal engine radiator. Probably you will notice that the mounts are all gone bad, but we'll get onto that in just a moment. So I was told that probably because the condenser is old, that and of course with the recharge it will force even more a potential leak. And to be fair, after looking at the condenser, it actually does look quite ropey with some sections missing. And if we look actually down here, you could see that it has seen better days, so I'm not surprised that it's not really doing the job it's supposed to do. So I will be replacing the condenser, and also, as a matter of fact, the dryer, because when you remove the condenser you also should replace the dryer due to the moisture exposure. Now I will have a quick look, but I don't think the car will have any gas really. If it is a basically refrigerant liquid. Although sometimes when I turn the aircon on, you could hear actually the clutch of the aircon compressor clicking in, engaging, which means there's probably still some gas left in it. I don't know. I will have a quick look, but I have to be very careful because I cannot really let any refrigerant escaping into the atmosphere, because it is illegal and very good for the environment. But I will probably try to punch very slightly one of these valves and see if there's anything onto it. But to be perfectly honest, I don't think there is any gas in it whatsoever. Also, I had another job to do, which was to replace the power steering pipes, because they were leaking from the reservoir. I know there's some leaking marks in here, but this is because I did empty it earlier on a few days ago, but I will come back to that story. So I had the problems with the power steering where I did the temporarily fix, but I always notice some weeping around this area on both pipes. This one here that goes straight onto the radiator, and this one at the bottom here that goes on to the pump itself, which is this pipe here. Now with age the pipes usually start to get a bit too hard and therefore they won't seal properly. You see, this one has been for so long that the clamp has had really an effect on it and therefore not sealing properly. This is actually quite dark in here, yes, so you could see the mark in there that's not sealing properly and therefore causing the leakage. So I thought myself, well, let me just get a couple of pipes and replace them. Well, I thought that was going to be an easy job, because when I tried to detach the pipe that goes from the reservoir on to the radiator, you can see the pipe in there, I thought it might be easy to remove. It wasn't. I cut the pipe in order to get a bit of extra access, but as you can see in here, it's actually leaking coolant instead of power steering fluid. That is because when I tried to turn the sleeve nut, it broke the seal inside the radiator. Because what these pipes do for the power steering, they use the normal car radiator as coolant, as an oil cooler, and because I did break the seal inside, that's why now there is radiator fluid coming into the power steering pipe through that. I haven't started the car ever since, so there is no danger of contamination of coolant into the power steering system. Also, the gearbox is also cooled the same way. So there's these two pipes, one at the top and one at the bottom there. So the leak over there has basically presented me with a massive problem. I didn't know what the hell was happening, so I asked for advice on several Jaguar X300 forums, and everyone almost was unanimous to tell me that it was when I tried to undo that sleeve nut over there, the seal did break. But they say that is something that can happen because those units can be actually quite fragile, and probably mine was really ready to fail. And the only solution, really, you can actually repair it, they said, but don't bother, you might as well just get a new radiator. When I looked at the price of the radiators on the several websites, I winced. A non-Jaguar one is at least £400. So I had to find a quick alternative, and I got a replacement second-hand in very good condition, so I'm going to see if that one works as well. So that is the third job that I have, actually the fourth job I have to do. So part of the power steering pipes, I also have to replace the radiator as well, and at the same time I'm going to replace the mounts. As you can see in here, they were all baggy. See, these foam mounts are from Jaguar are totally rubbish. They simply crumble to dust, and they need to be replaced. So it's going to be quite a few jobs that I'm going to do at the same time, and luckily it's all in the same area, because in order to remove, it makes actually the job to removing and replacing the condenser much easier. So let's see how it goes. It's going to be a long day today, and I'm going to show you what I've done. Not necessarily a guide, but at least what I've done in order. To sort all this mess out. So the first thing to do is to remove this slam panel here. Of course, I have to remove this trim here from the airbox filter, and also this one above the windscreen washer. To remove this slam panel, you have to remove 10 Torx screws with a number 40 Torx bit. Before, you have to remove the alarm bonnet alarm switch. Basically just pop it from underneath, and then unplug it, and there you go. under panel should remove very easily. Oh, that looks very rusty, doesn't it? And as you can see in here, this doesn't look great. It's going to need new mounts. These ones have crumbled beyond repair, and this should make the removal of the radiator much easier. Now the next step is actually to remove the hoses, but first I'm going to detach the bottom hose so that it can drain some coolant and I can at least recover some of it. So let's do that now. So as you can see in here, I've detached the bottom hose and just need really a screwdriver to unscrew the Jubilee clip from underneath. I raised the car in order to give me some additional space for access, and then put a draining pan underneath. I prefer to actually detach it from the top, otherwise you will have the coolant really splashing on your face, and then just leave it to drain for a while until most of it goes. Now the next step will be to remove the electric fans, and there is a process in place as well, so let's going to do that now. So the fans are usually fixed with 2 bolts, 10mm bolts, which are very easy to remove, and then a connector at the bottom. Now I have to disconnect these cable ties here, that one there, and that one over there. And there is one more connector here at the bottom, which you can pull the tab a bit and then just pull it down. This should come off easy. Very nice. Not very easy to do when you're doing it with just only one hand and the camera on the other. Very nice. Now this will give me a bit of extra room to remove these sleeve nuts. Oh, and look how rusty does it look in there. So okay, so now I'm going to remove the top hose and the others, so wish me luck. Now the next step will be to remove this top hose here, and also that top hose as well. The reason why I released the bottom hose first before anything else was because it's the one that takes the longest to drain. So while it drains, I can simply just get on with a few other jobs. So let's just go and detach this one, which should be very simple, and the same with the top one as well. Now it is time to actually disconnect the pipes. For these you need a number 19 open end spanner. So there are 4 of them, 2. So one at that side for the gearbox ATF, and this one for the power steering. This is the wrong thing I've done last time. I've just started to unscrew this, and you can see the captive nut from the radiator started to move as well. This in turn breaks the seal inside, which in turn causes it for the coolant to come out of this of the pipe here, instead of actually power steering actually when it is actually connected. So this is the reason why I have to replace the radiator. But these can be incredibly seized, so you have to be very careful. One thing that you can do is to actually hold these with a 25 spanner, which unfortunately I haven't got. But I've got an adjustable wrench, and that one doesn't seem to help much, because the thing is actually completely seized. There is no room whatsoever in here to hold and to grip the spanner. It's nothing, it's absolutely rubbish. How the hell am I going to do this? This pipe, probably it's not really too much of a trouble, because it's, the radiator is toast anyway. But what about the other functioning pipes, which can be also seized, and I can't simply just cut them off and replace them? This one at least is coming out. That's good. I did put a bit of WD-40 earlier on today. But this is incredibly tight. Moving to this side here. Oh, this one is much easier. I suppose because it's less closer to the elements. That's a bit of a relief. Okay, be careful, because these all have O-rings, so you better off not to damage them. And now this one here, I suppose it's going to be the same story with that one. It's rotating, the bloody thing is rotating. Goodness sake. I'm starting to hate this car. Seriously. These are the quirks of British cars that really sometimes put me off them. Have a MGZT, an MGF, and they all had really stupid engineering solutions that just make things worse. To be honest, the Germans are not too far behind, but at least they have less rust to deal with. Well, at least the ones I've dealt with. 20 BMWs, much older than this Jag, and they have far less rust. I just don't understand. Okay, rant over. It's absolutely seized solid. So I've been trying to undo this for over an hour to absolutely no avail. I moved on to a pair of mole grips, but this keeps running off. Basically, the thread of the radiator is seized solid with the sleeve nut. It keeps going round and round and round. It doesn't move at all. It's it's an absolute nightmare, and I think the only solution that I've got is really get the angle grinder out and cut it out. There is a special place reserved in hell for whoever came with this stupid idea. So as you can see in here, I have to use a hacksaw to remove it from the radiator. There was no amount of heat or penetrating fluid that would actually budge it. Because this is aluminium and this is steel, it is completely seized solid into the interior. Probably the best thing will be to get a new pipe, but to be perfectly honest, I think I've had so much enough from this car, and the pipe goes right down beneath the car. I don't even want to think about the condition of this union is down there. If it was that bad in the radiator and then at the bottom, I can imagine how it is underneath the car. But anyway, I'm going to move on to the next stage, which is to remove the condenser. Now in here I need a 22 millimeter spanner, actually yes, 22 millimeters spanner, and I need a probably 24, probably a number 24 or 20, actually 23 and a half, in order to undo this one. This is union from the condenser, and then just have to undo it, this one here. Put a little bit of penetrating fluid to unseize it, and it's actually not too bad. And I did a pinch test if there was any gas in it, so I just opened a couple of these valves and I just use a pinch to pinch through the valve, and there was a very slight hiss, but nothing else, which means that the system has no gas at all, and explains the lack of aircon. Oh, and there's no ring in here, so you must be careful not to lose it. And although for this I did buy 2 new O-rings just in case. I'll just leave it in here on this side and make sure I don't lose it. Okay, so that's it. That's the condenser partially free, and I'll just have to remove this one here, also with a 19 spanner. So I think I had to resort to the drastic measures now, as there was no way that I could unseize this piece of aluminium from the steel nut. So I got here a solution of caustic soda, which is known to dissolve aluminium, and I'm going to dip this. You just mix it for a bit, let it warm, and then you start to dip it into the piece. It won't dissolve the steel. It will make it actually much cleaner, but at least it will start to dissolve the aluminium and some of the aluminium corrosion that is basically causing the seize of between the aluminium and the steel nut. And you could see there is slowly some action. There's some very slight bubbling. Of course, for this kind of things, just use the protection. I've got these gloves, but under these gloves I've got nitrile latex gloves for extra protection, and also eye protection as well. so there's no splashing on my eyes of any hazardous chemicals. Now I have the union just slowly dipping and dissolving away the aluminium on that solution over there, so I'm just going to leave for a while until it starts to make some effect on the aluminium. It won't really necessarily corrode the steel because of normally the caustic soda can be used to remove rust from steel, but doesn't really necessarily dissolve steel and iron. But it's not very good for aluminium, which is the objective of this. Also, as you can see in here, that is the let me just take the camera out. That is what's left of the condenser. It's absolutely horrendous. I mean, it looks like someone dumped Churchill's ashtray. It's just all with just a finger to ash. Look at this. It's awful. No wonder the air can only work for about 2 to 3 days. This was in an absolutely appalling state. And this was an absolute pig of a job to remove as well. In the end I managed to remove it, but to be honest, since I'm not going to need this again, I don't really care actually. So there you go. One former condenser, very likely to be the original one, in the most horrendous state that I've ever seen. Here are the mounts, also nicely crumbly. Even my brownie recipe is not that crumbly like that. Christ. Oh well, back into the dipping.